Welcome to video 3B, and we're still working with triangles. In this video, we'll discuss how we classify triangles. Another way to put that is how we name them. And we'll also discuss something called the triangle sum theorem. So you can name triangles or classify them two ways, and we're going to use both. So we're going to give them what I call a first name and a last name. We can classify them based on their angle measures, and you already know that if you see this little box, it means it's a right angle. So we can call that a right triangle, which you already know. And we know that when we crack it open more than 90 degrees, we have an obtuse angle. So a triangle that has one obtuse angle, because it can only have one, is called an obtuse triangle. So this we'd call a right triangle based on its angle measures. This one we'd call an obtuse triangle based on its angle measures. And if all the angles are acute, measuring less than 90 degrees, we call this an acute triangle. So that shouldn't be anything new. But we also give triangles what I call a second name. So their first name comes from their angle measure. Their last name comes from the length of their sides. So if all the sides are of different lengths, either you can see them or they're marked by different numbers of dashes, or maybe even the lengths are given with numerical values. When they're all different, we call that a scalene triangle based on its sides. When we've got a triangle where two sides are congruent, but the third is different, and again, either with markings or with numerical values, we call this an isosceles triangle. And last, if we have all sides the same length, marked with all of the same number dashes, either they all have one, or maybe they all have two, or maybe they've all been given their numerical lengths, we call that equilateral. So you're going to give your triangles first names and last names based on their angle measures and their sides. We're going to go by looks, we're going to go by measures, and we're going to go by markings. So on this first one, I'm not going to make you get out protractors and rulers and measure angles and sides. We're just going to go by looks. It looks like this is the same as this, and this one's different. It also looks like all of these angles are acute. They're all less than 90. So the first name comes from the angle measures. Because these are all acute angles, we say this is an acute. And because we have two sides of equal length, we call it an isosceles. So this would be called an acute isosceles triangle based on its looks. Now on this one, I'm giving the numerical values of the angles and the side lengths. So angles first. First name comes from the angles. I've got one right angle, so this is called a right triangle. Now when I go look at the sides, I've got two that are the same, and the third one's different. So this one is also isosceles. Seems to have been my favorite choice here. Last, let's pretend this had 2 on it just to make it different from the other ones. So what I'm showing you on this one is that I've got two sides that have different measures, and this third one is obviously longer than the first two. I'm going to take these off like that. Okay, I've got an obtuse angle in here as well. So when I have one obtuse angle, I call it an obtuse triangle. And when all sides are different, because I had you change that one, I would call it an obtuse scalene triangle. And that's how we classify them, kind of an easy task. Next step in this video is the triangle sum theorem, which I've already told you, but we haven't done some advanced examples using this. The triangle sum theorem says that in any triangle, the sum answer after we add of the angles. I actually should say the measures of the angles, but you get what I mean. Let's put of the angle measures. That'll be proper then. Of the angle measures is always 180 degrees. So in any triangle, the sum of the angles is always 180 degrees. So let's go take a look at my first example. I'm not just going to give you just a plain triangle and label two of them and ask you for the third and you just subtract these from 180 because you won't struggle with those. I'm going to kind of shake it up a little bit. I'm looking for this angle. It's called an exterior angle because it's outside of the triangle. In order for me to figure out what that is, I like to work backwards. I can't get question mark unless I can get the one next to it because those two are a linear pair, and we've discussed in a previous section that linear pairs or lines, linear pair of angles add up to 180 degrees. So how can I get in there and get the measure of the angle indicated by that dot? Well, let's look at what else I'm given. I'm given this exterior angle of 35 degrees, and then I've got this pair of crisscrossing scissors from the previous section, and we call those vertical angles, and we said they're congruent. So it allows me to hop in the triangle here and get a 35-degree angle as a second angle in a triangle. Once I have two of the angles, I can easily get the third because I know that all three of them have to add up to 180. So I would just take the 100 that they gave you, the 35 that you just found because it was vertical. I would just add those up and see what's left for the third angle. So to see what's left, we would just subtract that from 180. We'll get nice 45 degrees left. So the angle dot right up here is now 45. How is that helpful? It's making a line with angle question mark. So 45 plus question mark has to equal 180 degrees because they are a linear pair. So all I need to do to get question mark is to subtract it from 185. Leaving me with 135 degrees. So you just kind of walk around and use the information given. The next one's really going to challenge you a little bit because I got to walk all over the place on this one. But remember, all you're going to use is relationships that I've already given you. We've got some vertical angles here. We've got some linear pairs. We've got some triangles. So we're just going to work our way around. And let's go to where we're trying to get first and think about how we're going to get there. That's my destination. How am I going to walk myself to angle question mark? Well, if I can get what's next to it, I have a linear pair and they add up to 180. How can I get what's next to it? It's an angle in a triangle. Well, they only gave me one, which means I'm going to have to figure out what check mark is. How do I get check mark? Well, I've got this one next to it and another one in here all making a line. So I just need to walk my way from basically the left information to the right information. Let's hop on and see what we can do. Let's take what they've given us here. I'm going to erase all these little markings to unclutter the screen. Let's start over here. I know this is 75. What does that walk me to? Vertical pair are congruent. They make those scissors that we talked about in a previous section. So I know that's 75. Let's take a look at what other external information they gave me. They gave me a 45 up here that allowed me to hop in the triangle on another pair of vertical angles. Now I've got two angles in a triangle. The triangle sum theorem told us that those have to add up to 180 with check mark over here. So I'm going to take my 45. I'm going to add my 75 to it. I'm going to see how much I've taken up in that triangle. I've usurped or taken up 120 degrees in there already. Well, they have to add up to 180. So I'm going to remove what's already been taken up, and I'm now in here. Notice what I'm doing. I'm walking myself over to here, just using all the relationships from previous sections. So now what do I have? I've got 60, 79, and this angle smiley face, and they all make a line together. So I am going to say that I've got the 60, I've got the 79, I've taken up 139 degrees of this line. So to complete it, lines are 180, they're straight angles, also from another section. I'm going to see what's left over for angle smiley face in there. It looks like I have made an arithmetic error there, sorry about that. I have 41 degrees left in there. And now I'm in the triangle. And likewise, I've got two angles in the triangle. I'm going to see how much degree measure I've used up in there. I've used 109 degrees. So what's this going to be? 180 minus 109. So I'm at 71. And I've walked my way over to question mark. Question mark and 71 degrees complete a line. They are a linear pair, or they make a straight angle together, which means they add up to 180 degrees. So what I've got is question mark is 109 degrees for my final answer. I believe that's the end of this section. I'm going to make sure that it says stop on the next page here before I stop the video. Oh, we do have one more, so good thing I checked. So let's go to the last one here and walk my way. This one's got a little bit of algebra on it. Sorry, I hit the screen. I'm to figure out x. Again, I need to get in this triangle so I can say that these three angles add up to 180 degrees. I'm going to have to figure out what this one is. It's across from 4x plus 17. So again, it's a vertical pair, which means they are congruent. So I now have the three angles inside my triangle. And I'm going to say the top one, I don't know what it is. The bottom left, don't know what it is. The bottom right, they gave it to me, has to equal 180 degrees. And I'm just going to do a little linear algebra and we'll be done. So I've got a pair of like terms yielding 5x. I've got some numerical like terms up here, and I'm going to combine those. I've got 23 and 17, which add up to 40. And then I've got the 40 plus the 180, so I've got 120 degrees in there, and 5 times x, that has to equal 180. I'll subtract the 120. I'll get 5x is equal to 60. I'll divide both sides by 5, and I'll get x is equal to 12. And on this one, let's suppose the direction said find x. However, if it said to find the measure of angle A, I'd have to take that up, stuff it in, and do 12 plus 23. So be careful what they ask you for. You're going to stop. You're going to do worksheet 3.4 and 3.5. And if you're listening to this video, you can, when you grab it, you can come up and ask me, do I need to do all of them or the odds? And I will let you know. That's how I keep making sure that you're watching the videos, because if you don't, you're going to do all of them.